Hello, and welcome to Real Person Reviews. I'm Sam, and I'm a real person, and today I want to talk to you about Call of Duty Ghosts. More particularly, this one is Call of Duty Ghosts, the Gold Edition on Xbox Series X, but it is the Xbox One version. There's a 360 version and an Xbox One version. I can only get this Xbox One version variant of it, so that's why we're talking about this. And this is basically the first attempt, I guess, at another game fully by the new Infinity Ward after the founders and stuff left, or I guess were fired, and a lot of their team left. This is their first thing after Modern Warfare 3 that was just all them. I guess this is assuming you probably know about those more popular games and some of the first-person shooter stuff in general. Call of Duty, this shouldn't be your first Call of Duty game, is what I'm saying. So we're going in kind of assuming that. So, like I say, Call of Duty Ghosts is pretty similar to Modern Warfare 3, actually. It's the first game since then by these guys, so a lot of it is going to be kind of the typical stuff you'd expect. So for the campaign, some of the story here, basically, I don't want to give too much away for spoiler reasons and whatnot, but basically, for the story, we're kind of in this like near future area where essentially there are two big global powers. There's the U.S. and then there's this collection of countries known as the Federation, and they're at war. And the game kind of starts out with basically these Federation forces in space, basically taking over this U.S. space station. That's an orbital bombardment system that can be used to bomb stuff from the sky. And they take it over and they start trying to attack U.S. cities, but the people sacrifice themselves. They end up basically sacrificing themselves to destroy the station so that it can't destroy all of the U.S. or the world or whatever. So that's kind of like the plot-wise in terms of the setting of what's happening. And then there's also this other plot thing that's going on with the Ghosts, the special forces, the special unit of the U.S. Army. And they're the kind of guys who can go in behind enemy lines and do these secret covert missions and things. You're kind of focused more on the things that they're doing. Particularly, you're looking at kind of this revenge plot of a long time ago. There was a really awesome ghost called Rourke, and he was leading this group with him, and this mission they were on went wrong, and basically one of his squad mates there, Elias, was essentially they're dangling in this whatever, you'll probably see, maybe even see it in the footage maybe, but you're dangling in this most precarious position, and he has to let go. So in order to save the rest of the squad, he has to let Rourke die, presumably, but he doesn't. What actually happened was Rourke ends up surviving and gets captured by Federation forces, and then gets totally brainwashed to start hunting the Ghosts, and so he wants revenge. And there's also this layer of you're playing as one of the sons of Elias, and you end up actually joining the Ghosts, and then thereby becoming a target of Rourke as well. So it's kind of like that layer of the revenge plot, father-son plot, while there's this war stuff happening. So basically, try to stop Rourke and save the world or whatever. It's kind of the main gist of what you're doing here. A lot of this is pretty typical standard fare for first-person shooters, especially Call of Duty. They do add in the ability to slide now. If you sprint and then hold crouch, you can do this slide move, and then also you have the ability where certain pieces of cover, if you aim down your sights by them, you'll lean out, automatically lean out from behind them to attack. There's that. But other than that, a lot of this is, they say, typical fare for what you're doing here. with your missions. There's a lot of spectacle here as well. You know, I mean, there's some standard shootouts, but then there's things like, you know, you have this section where you're like underwater. There's like a stealth section in the jungle with like a heartbeat sensor and like silenced weapons sneaking around. There's like a section like in a section in space. There's like a part where like there's like a flooded city. There's the ability to control an attack dog to go in and like attack enemies for you. You can also use this remote sniper to like shoot enemies from like remote locations that they aren't even manned. Also, there's things like some vehicle sections, driving a tank, or like flying a chopper, riding in vehicles. So there's like a, you know, along with your typical shootouts, that's the kind of stuff there's some set pieces and some interesting mission types dotted in there as well. But ultimately, yes, your goal is trying to do all this stuff in order to win this war that's out here. And then for the online, for stuff there, again, pretty standard online stuff that you've come to expect. There are some new modes thrown in here for things. There's like a search and rescue, which is like search and destroy, but mixed with kill confirmed. So if you kill somebody and you grab their dog tags, then they can no longer respawn. Otherwise, they can keep respawning. And you're still trying to like plant the bomb is also another facet of it. So like there's that. What else? There's so many modes here. There's Blitz, where it's like basically each team has like an area they're defending because it's like a portal, and if like you get into your enemy's portal, you get a point, and then there's like a little cooldown. So it's a score attack, trying to do that as much as you can while defending your own. There's a mode called Reinforce, where there's like these 3 neutral objectives, and then you're all trying to capture all 3 of those. And there's no respawning unless, like, if you die, the only way to respawn is if your team takes one of those points, or whatever, those control points. So when they get an objective, then you can respawn. So you just do that until either everyone's eliminated or until you get all of the control points. Was there anything else? There's a lot of, I don't know, there's like a lot of modes that are like pretty like similar. Like, I don't know, there's grind, where you're grabbing dog tags, and then like it's kind of like kill confirm, but you have to bring those to a specific spot to actually get the points. And hunted is a mode where you go in and essentially you start with just a pistol. Everyone does, and then like there will be these random like supply drops onto the map. When you go to them, you can grab a random weapon out of them. They actually added gun game in here as well, which I think is a first for a Infinity Ward 1. Then there's the mode drop zone, where you're basically trying to hold this one area that is the drop zone, and you get points for standing next to there. You're trying to reach a score limit, but also as you're there, they'll start dropping supply drops there with like random like kill streaks and things in it for you to use. Otherwise, like for the mode stuff too, like I don't know, with multiplayers, similar. They do give you the option in multiplayer to turn off that tactical lean if you want to, also. And another part of multiplayer, they do have bots in this one now as well too, so that's also a nice option to have. They have bots. They also have the ability to add any mixed difficulty for bots, so it's not just all recruit, regular, veteran, whatever. You can actually make it all of them like a mixed, so they're a little more varied in what they will do. And some of the core stuff, while it's mostly is pretty similar, they have made a few tweaks to that. So, for example, the way they handle perks is different, where instead of just like having these set perk packages or something, what they do with perks is essentially you have like 8 slots, and you can pick however many perks that you want. Granted, provided you have the level to have them unlocked. But every perk takes a different amount of points, essentially. So, some of the more useful perks, more prominent ones, are going to take more slots up, whereas some of the less useful, more minor ones are going to take up fewer slots. And so you kind of like mix and match that way to try and keep it balanced. Also now for unlocking most of your other stuff, like your weapons and attachments and gears and stuff, which you can have like multiple attachments on your weapons now as well. But unlocking all of these things, with your like weapons and equipment, tacticals, whatnot, these use something called squad points, and you get squad points by leveling up and completing the challenges, and that's also getting those attachments and everything too. And that way, so you kind of like just like you just buy whatever you want with those squad points when you want it. There's also a thing here they've added. Also they bring back the strike packages of like you do assault where it's all just getting kills. There's like the support one where you're basically just still getting kills, but it doesn't reset after you die. And then there's the one that just gives you like more perks, or whatever. So you don't have any like kill streaks, but you get more perks as you're getting kills. And they've also got this thing called field orders, where basically while you're playing, you can grab these field orders and little box thing or whatever, and it'll give you a secondary objective, and completing that will give you like a random kill streak award. Those are mostly the things for like otherwise multiplayer plays pretty similarly, although they do have a different mode here called squads, and the idea here is that eventually you'll get enough squad points to start buying these different characters, because there's like a character selection thing. You can kind of customize what you look like in the game and stuff too, which I suppose is also a new thing. You can name them and everything, but you can also buy more of these like characters and customize these different squad members to create a squad of certain people with their names and their loadouts and perks and everything. You can create those, and then you build up these different modes of things of using those squads, playing either with them or against someone else's squads, or a mixture of both. It's just a way to kind of spice up the kind of things that you're doing, and the idea is just to get more kind of more of a tactical experience out of here, of like who should have like what weapons, and like what combination of characters would be good for certain things. Is sort of like the idea behind that, to add an extra layer to the online component. And I'd say more, but we'll get to why I can't really on that in a minute here. Well, probably be more than a minute, but you get the idea. There's also some PvE stuff in here. One of these things is called Safeguard, and Safeguard is essentially like the survival, pretty similar to the survival from Modern Warfare 3, where you go in, you fight AI-controlled soldiers through increasingly difficult waves. But the difference here is that I believe it's things like using perks and stuff with them, and also that you can basically, as you survive, they'll drop supplies for you as you're going further, and you can play this with your squads as well if you want. However, there is another mode here that is the main PvE mode, which is Extinction, which is kind of like their sort of, attempt at, doing something more similar to zombies. But instead of fighting zombies, you're fighting these monsters that are called cryptids. And essentially, for at least the base game that I have here, because I didn't get any DLC, you go in and you have this drill you're carrying around to these nests of cryptids, and using the drill to drill in and destroy them. And while it's drilling, you're trying to defend the drill and, of course, stay alive for the whole time. And it's basically about going through either some weapons that are lying around that you can buy, because you get money for killing enemies, and you can use that to either set up traps, or you can use it to buy these things, these weapons that are lying around. You always have to have your pistol on you, so you can only have one other weapon, but they'll have different weapons kind of just lying around as you're there. Also, you can use money to buy other stuff like on your loadout that you have. So basically, your loadout is something you can customize before you go into the matches, because you can play with up to 4 people. And these loadouts have like, you can change, like there are different pistols you can get for starting pistols. There's your class of character, which kind of determines some of your an innate ability you have, whatever special ability. Then there's also things like things that are assigned to the D-pad that you can essentially, when you press those in game, you can use your money to buy those on the fly, which can be things like ammo and ammo, and there's other equipment to like either help you or like explosives and stuff to attack enemies and weaponry that way. So there's like support and offensive items can be equipped to those. And the thing is, as you're playing and beating these rounds, you're getting skill points. So in the game, everything starts at like level 1 there that you have. But as you're getting these skill points, you can assign those to different things. And as you get to the last few assignments of that, they will take more skill points to finish them. But they'll make those more prominent, the abilities of those kinds of things. So like, like the ammo refill. You get more skill points in there, you'll be able to refill more ammo with each purchase of that thing. And the overall goal here, while you're doing this, of course, is to get to the end, destroy all the nests. Then you like set off this nuke, and then destroys everything. You have to try and get out before you die. And as you're playing, either successfully doing these runs or just killing enough of these cryptids, because they do get more plentiful and aggressive and more types as you go on. But once you finish this, or kill enough of them, you can get these teeth, and you can use these teeth as a thing to get permanent upgrades for your character in the upgrades menu as well. So there's an element of like, progression as you're going through and doing this. So that's sort of their PvE mode there. So there's a lot of stuff in this game that's I think there is to like. I like that they use the campaign to like, they kind of leaned away from the geopolitics angle that I'm an idiot about anyway, so I'm glad they did that. They lean away from that, and they try to focus a bit more on this revenge plot and the father and son's story stuff. I think that was a good move. Still core gameplay is still solid. I think the spectacle stuff is fun. Some of these things are probably at least like somewhat memorable. Like, oh yeah, the underwater fighting or fighting in space. Even kind of like that, sneaking around the jungle with a heartbeat sensor that was like attached to your arm. It's like, that's cool. It plays just fine. The core gameplay is still solid. Cool ideas. Campaign is a definitely passable campaign. I really don't have much for complaints there. It also didn't drag on too long, and I like that too. So neat things thrown in that you kind of remember, but like, yeah, it's a totally fine campaign. The multiplayer, I really like I think the design on there, like just the UI stuff and the way it looks. Presentation is very nice there. Plays very well. I think there's some cool things about the multiplayer also. Like some of these modes not only are neat, but I haven't seen them like in other Call of Duty games since then. And maybe some of these next ones I play will have them, but I haven't seen them in all the other games I've played so far. So that's interesting that some of these modes just didn't come back, even though I don't think they're that bad. I don't know. I think the ability to unlock things the way you want to unlock them for most of your like weapons and attachments and stuff was good, instead of waiting for a linear, like I need to wait until I'm a level to unlock this weapon that I want to use. Like if I'm just using shotguns, I don't want to have to wait for like these level intervals to get the next shotgun necessarily. I just want to be able to try the next shotgun when I want to try the next shotgun. And then like unlocking attachments and stuff, whatever, isn't just about like getting a bunch of kills with the thing. I do kind of like that you can just use your squad points to buy the attachments and stuff, and it does make you have to decide what do you want to go for a little bit too, so you can't just like have everything. So your progression is going to be like a bit different than everyone else while you're progressing, because not everyone's going to sit here and buy all the shotguns first. Some people might be looking at snipers, some people might be looking at a few different kinds of weapons, and then maybe people are going to focus on unlocking weapons or just attachments for everything or whatever. There's a lot to consider there. And I like the freedom in getting perks. The ability to like just have all these different mix and match stuff from everywhere, and the way they tried to balance that, I think, is an interesting idea. Kind of like the pick 12 system, only but you're picking, or pick 10 system, but it's like a pick 8 with just the perks. I don't know, it's a neat concept. I also think they did a good job with the kill streaks stuff, because I think that like a lot of the previous games felt like you were spending a bunch of your time, trying to shoot down enemy aircraft. There's a lot of that going on once it started getting kill streaks. Whereas here, most of the stuff is boots on the ground things. You know, your radar stuff is like a thing you throw on the ground, and like, there's like also like because of that too. There's not a lot of weapons that are meant just to take out aircraft as well. So you're mostly focusing on really like you're on the ground, you're fighting enemies on the ground. That's what you're doing, and I think that's a good focus. I think that helps it stay more tight in the action and not eyes up on the sky for stuff that like where is it, where do I get it, and then getting shot because you're looking in the sky for something to show up, right? I think they did a good job balancing that a little bit better and fixing some of those issues. And I don't know. Yeah, overall, like in the online, it's still like it's very solid, very good. I think they definitely still nailed that. Plus, I really like having mixed AI for the bots and just having bots in general. Those are both really good additions to this, because that meant that I could play a lot of these modes still, even if nobody was in like the rooms to play them or whatever. It wasn't like totally unplayable in those. Extinction was interesting. I appreciate that they tried something different. I like that there's progression to do on that. That's definitely something where like there's some potential there to do something, and it does feel more open and like it doesn't feel as like claustrophobic and getting overwhelmed as old zombies used to feel. So I do think there was some room for that to breathe as well and kind of coexist with other stuff, along with getting single player and the multiplayer and then the PvE for like safeguard for that mode for the wave survival. You have a lot of like pieces to this that come together, and that's good. You have a decent amount of content here, but this is where the butt comes in. Problem is, basically, a lot of the stuff is, it's not amazing in context of the series. So like, again, like the multiplayer is good, but the biggest problem there is nobody's playing it. When I went to go play online, I only could get Team Deathmatch to go. Nobody was in any other modes. So I had to play bots to try some of these other ones, which isn't as fun because there's no progression there. You just have everything unlocked in solo, which is cool to test it out, but also means that there's not much point other than having some funsies and then calling it quits. So unfortunately, time has not been kind to Ghosts in terms of playing us online. That's a sad story, but it's true. Squads, similar thing. Like I was mentioning, I couldn't experience squads pretty much at all because no one was online for me to play squads with or against or anything. So it just wasn't a viable option anymore. This one unique thing here you can't take advantage of in the online. Like that one of the most unique things about it you can't try. Extinction is just not as good as zombies. I'm sorry, it's not. And I know some people like it. It's an interesting concept, but the way zombies has expanded since then also makes it even less like who cares now, right? They've incorporated some of those elements into there, and like most of the replay value there, it gets kind of down because there's not enough there, right? Like I'm sure if you get the DLC, then you'll have more missions to do, and it's more interesting because there's more stuff there. But for this one core mission, it's going to play the same way pretty much every time. You might grab a few different weapons, but it's not like you can upgrade those weapons or get a whole plethora of weapons or anything. So it will end up ultimately feeling samey with the pistol and whatever weapon of choice you pick from the stuff on the ground. And it also kind of extends a bit to the campaign, where I felt like I was using the same two guns over and over again because everything works pretty similarly, but I was like, I kind of like this one, so I remember that name or that shape, and I just kept grabbing those and using them most of the time. And the campaign itself, also like the story stuff, failed to do much. Also let's also quick say the lean isn't super useful. The slide is completely unnecessary. Doesn't do you any favors at all. And I'll also say that again, this doesn't really do anything that really elevates a whole lot. You might remember a couple of interesting pieces of like it was underwater, the thing in space or something, but there's not a lot of things to really stand out and be memorable. They unfortunately did not do enough to really make you feel like this was a big war issue. They didn't do enough to feel like it was a we don't know really anything about our enemies because that wasn't the point, but they didn't focus enough on the father-son thing or like the revenge plot thing to make that feel super good and earned either. So they kind of fell out on both fronts there and made it like just kind of a bit like whatever, kind of all around. Even though the core gameplay is good, they didn't have much else to really help elevate that enough to be beyond passable. And the story also ends on like this cliffhanger sequel bait scene, which for a Call of Duty Ghosts 2 that we'll just never get, right? So that's probably a bit of a misstep there. I think ultimately what I'm kind of trying to get at here with Call of Duty Ghosts is to say that this game is fine. It's just, it's not great. It's not all that memorable. It's one that most people might remember as a rather disappointing Call of Duty. The things it tried to do just didn't really do them that well. The things that were good were already good and continued to be good, while the things that were new and different kind of just floundered, didn't go anywhere, never really made it beyond this game because they weren't that good. You don't see squads in any of these other games, right? I mean, some of those multiplayer modes are neat, but no squads, no extinction, no Ghosts 2 for the story stuff. A lot of it just kind of fell on his face, and that's unfortunate because, again, like I said, the game isn't bad, but it unfortunately does mark the start of the decline of Call of Duty. Basically, you had Modern Warfare 3, and people were kind of a little bit like, I don't know. It's fine. It wrapped up the story, I guess. And then Black Ops 2 was good. But then after that, it was kind of hit this, and people were like, it's fine. Maybe the next one will be really good. And we kind of just spent a lot of time waiting for that next really awesome Call of Duty that took a while to show up. But that's kind of my thoughts. What are your thoughts on Call of Duty Ghosts? Do you think it was memorable? Do you think it was really good, or do you think it was really bad? Or do you think it's somewhere in the middle like me, and like it's just failed to impress? I'd be curious to see what people think, because I actually haven't heard as much about this as I've thought. Some people really like it. Some people said it was garbage, but I haven't really heard a whole lot of I haven't heard whole lot of opinions that say anything like super interesting about it. I guess no one's really like dug into why. So I'd like to hear more explanations as to why people feel the way they do about it. That would be fun to hear if you're the kind of person to do that. But anyways, up next we're gonna have Advanced Warfare, and we'll see what that does to me and my reputation or whatever. Was this a cool shot? I still don't know. Let me know in the comments if this shot was dumb.